Mike and I are in our backyard, and we're going to take a stroll toward the house and look around the yard, look at the gardens, and see what's going on at this time of year. This is July 29th, and it's 2007, so here's the end of July. It's been a really, really dry summer. We haven't had, I think we had an inch of rain since the beginning of June, so Mike and I have been out watering, just for the record. We've had like the driest season ever. You can see the little flagstone wall, and in the front, the red flowers are the Monarda. I think it's Jacob Klein bee balm, and it's at the end of its time now, but the hummingbird still comes around and likes it. And behind it you can see the Agostiki I planted. It's called Agostiki Blue Fortune, and it's really at its peak now and really tall, just a wall of blue there. But the hummingbird doesn't care for that. He doesn't like the blue flowers, I guess. Maybe they just don't have enough honey. And we've got some iris here that bloomed in the spring. We had a really different garden in the spring. It was all green and blue with iris. And along the wall, the tall spires of Perovskia, or Russian sage, of course. And between them, I put in some broom. This is the broom. It's about this high right now, but it's only in its first year, so I'm hoping it's supposed to get about 3 feet tall, and the deer don't eat it, so I'm happy. More Russian sage, a different variety. This is the filigree, I think, and it's blooms earlier, and I think it's a lot bluer. If we go up on the deck, we'll be able to see the other things in the garden. Right now, you can see mostly the blue fortune over there, but some other blue things as well. The thistle, the globe thistle, that seems to be getting itself spread all over. You can see the big round balls of it here and there. And the flower in between there, this one little blue one, I think that's balloon flower. I don't think that's campanula. I'm not sure. These things were here, and so I'm not sure what some of them are. Another one I'm not sure of is this one, and it's, if you can see them, they're starting to close at this time of day, but they're long stems with beautiful blue, and usually the plant is covered with blue. It's got long, narrow basal leaves, and I don't know what it is, so I'm hoping I can find out and plant more of it, because the deer don't seem to care for it, so that's a good thing. A couple more things that I can get at here. Maybe if I can just get behind this and pick it up. This is I just found out the name of this. It's a form of statice, and it's got little blue flowers all over it, and it's got a big wide basal leaf and just comes up every year in that same spot and doesn't ever spread, so I don't know why, but so far the deer haven't eaten it. This is another form of Agostiki, and a very different kind of leaf from this one, and a different color flower. It's the one that the hummingbird really likes, and I'm planting it wherever I can so that we have a lot of hummingbirds eventually, and also because I like looking through the flowers. When the light shines through them, it gives it a really pretty glow. Behind me is a coreopsis there. That's getting to the end of its time. And just for the record, right in front here, we've got a couple of plants. Let me see if I can get this one to show. It's a long, floppy stem and a leaf that just covers the garden. It makes a great ground cover because it keeps out all the rest of the weeds. I think it's Adenophyra, and the common name is ladybell. So I've let it grow wherever it wants to. And another thing, if I can just pick it up over here, I think is Gara, and it eventually gets red flowers on it that open up with long, thin petals, so it looks like the stems are full of butterflies. But I didn't plant it, and the deer usually eat it. I always have to cross my fingers whether or not something's actually going to live. If we look at the other side of the deck, we can see some of the plants that grow in the narrow garden right along the edge. There's a bunch of lilies in there, but that big purple plant is also a monarda. It's a royal purple bee balm or something like that. When you get close to it, it has a really nice smell. And on the other side of it, I think you can see this big pink thing is the first time that it's ever bloomed. Maybe because I've been using a different kind of deer repellent, and so the pink phlox has bloomed. It's been here all along, but the deer have been eating it, so it's never had a chance. It looks really nice with the purple monarda, which is a favorite of the bees and the butterflies and everything. And the lily next to it's got a couple more buds on it, but it was worth saving. I dug up most of the lilies and I saved this one and the orange one, because otherwise, what color do we have at this time of the year? I thought that the deer wouldn't bother these big tall lilies, but they jumped up and walked back and forth in this garden in the spring and ate up everything that was coming up. This is mallow, and it's going to seed. The deer aren't supposed to eat it, but they did. They ate it in the spring, and then it came back anyway. And we have lavender here, or used to. The flowers on here were really tall and purple and really nice. And it's a healthy plant. It really likes where it is. And some rudbeckia, which usually doesn't get a chance to bloom. Usually the deer eat it up. One of the things I like about this wall is that the limestone allows things to grow in and out in between. And this is a sedum that has a yellow flower on it. I think there's here it is here. And it just grows wherever it wants to and is very hardy, and sedum is just a wonderful plant. And the toadflax, which is finished blooming now and seeding itself for next year, but there's thousands of these tiny little spikes of flowers when, let me see, in May, I think, the end of May. So, and the deer don't like them, so that's enough to recommend them. We put in a couple of butterfly bushes. There used to be yew shrub, and the deer would just chew on it so that there was nothing left but a brown stump. So we decided we'd put in something that the deer don't like. It's a strong flavored, strong smelling plant, the butterfly bush, and favorite of butterflies, of course, and hummingbirds come to it too. But the deer hate it, so we're hoping it'll grow there. This is one thing that I planted that wasn't here before, this whole strip. And I'm hoping that it'll eventually fill up with lacy looking things that don't keep the light out from the windows, but I want to put something else down. This is another agostiki. This is red fortune, and hummingbirds come in and they like that one too, so I put in a couple more of them. So we're going to go into the secret garden. And look at the tomatoes. Filling up their cages. Last year they pulled the cages over. And we still have to get a plant, a tomato. Here's a nice heavy one, and I know there's a big one down there in the middle. And it looks like it's starting, maybe a little color. So what is this, the end of July, I said. So that records what the tomatoes look like the end of July. Yeah, you can see the how big it is. When you come around this corner, that's really pretty. We should walk over there and look at what's in that garden over there, even though it's kind of in the shade right now. Of course, the big item is the Heliopsis or Helianthum, and you can see that some of the flowers have faded, and also see that some of them look like they've been cut in half, which is exactly right. The goldfinches come and eat them and just hop around on top of the shrub and tear the flowers up. They just love them, but the plant doesn't seem to mind at all. I think we'll have one more foxglove before the end. I'm letting the foxglove go to seed so that it can plant itself for next year instead of cutting it down. But every time I look at it, I remember Morgan wanting to know why it's called foxglove. What I put in here is the monk's hood. These plants, this one, this one, this one, and over in there. We'll get over to that. I had them somewhere else and they didn't like it, so I transplanted them last fall. But this is why it's called monk's hood. It's got that big head, funny looking. And they don't get any showier than that. That's about what they do, but I think maybe a little taller. This is a shady garden in the middle of the afternoon. You can see the echinacea coming up, the pink over there. And right here is something that Maria and Katie and I looked for this spring. It was April, about the end of April, and we couldn't find a trace of it. This is the, what's it called? It gets big red. You can see some of them turning red now. The sun isn't shining on the grass garden. I don't know if we can really get a good picture of it, but you can see the light shining through the big miscanthus. The zebra miscanthus, that was there. I didn't plant that. It just keeps getting bigger and bigger. I put in the other grasses. I took out all the lilies and everything else that was out here. And I have some grasses that are going to turn color in the fall. And of course the big zebra one has plumes later in the year and they last all winter. This another one. This was here, and I don't know what it's called, but this one here I put in, and this is called Carly Rose. The plumes get a kind of a soft, dusty, pinkish color. Now we're back down by the edge of the canal and looking across over at the grape arbor. You can see the trellis and the flowers in between. That's another area that was just full of lilies, and I don't know what else was in there, but I took out most of the lilies because when the deer just eat them all the time and they keep spreading, you don't have anything but a lot of weeds. So now we've got daisies that are coming up all by themselves, and I've put in a few things. Right in front here we've got a rose that looks like it's just starting to bloom. The deer usually do eat that, so I don't know if we'll have any luck keeping it, but it's a pretty rose. I don't know what kind it is. What I wanted for this garden was to plant things that would just spread and naturalize all by themselves. So I put in lots of Achillea, the yarrow here. This is Achillea paprika, and you can see that when it first starts, when the flowers first open, they are that paprika color. Then as they get a little bit older, they get more and more yellow. I put that in, and a lot of oriental poppy behind it. So that looks really nice in the spring. This is another Achillea. It's some yellow one. They get really, really big back here, bigger than they should, I think, because it's a little more shady than it was supposed to be. I didn't realize it was that shady, so things get taller. But over here, you can see how the daisies blend right in with the yarrow. and how the yarrow starts pink and then, orange and then turns yellow. This is a nice corner. It gets more sun. The plant behind the yarrow, that's called helenium, and the common name for it is tick seed. All the flowers come up a different color, kind of orange, kind of yellow, here and there. Deer aren't supposed to eat it, but they do, so I'm really lucky that I got any. It looks a little bit like Ratibida, the little high stem in the middle. If I stand next to this, you can see how tall it is. Look at how big this echinacea got. This was here, and it's because it's so dark over here most of the time, it just kept getting taller and taller. And here's a lily that got really tall. The deer ate most of them, but it's managed to keep itself out of their mouth for a little while. This is a plant I didn't know the name of, and somebody told me it's called obedience plant. This is just starting to bloom. This was here, and I planted another one. You can see it opens all along this tip. It's a very nice plant. Physostegia, I think is what it's called, obedience plant. So I wanted more of it, and I put another one in, and I put in a couple more echinacea. The deer do eat them, but I figure if I put in enough of them, maybe we'll have some. This is Mike's raspberry. Not as pretty as it used to look. He wound it up the trellis, and the berries, it fruited, so in June it was just the prettiest thing with red and black berries all the way up over the trellis there, and the birds just went crazy. It was so easy for them to jump down and land on the trellis and eat the berries. You know, we should do this every couple weeks, because every couple weeks there's something new that's coming up, and I'm sure that next year it'll look completely different. When we look at these gardens, more things will be blooming, because right now they're just babies and just getting started. So that's the fun of it, getting to see what happens.